Hey there, electrifiers. So I had two options for my long-awaited drive in the Fisker Ocean. The first, the UK, where it's been raining for what seems like the past year. The second, Los Angeles, where the sky seems to be constantly blue. I went for the second. After all, if a car comes with California mode, it seems a bit silly not to try it out in the place it was actually designed for. And breathe. So I first saw the Fisker Ocean exactly 2 years ago here in California at the Los Angeles Auto Show, and I really loved it. Not least because it comes with dog windows and of course that California mode, but also because I just think that Henrik Fisker, yes, that's his name there on the badge, is an incredibly talented designer, and I thought it looked really cool. So I think Fisker has managed to make yet another electric SUV somehow look cooler and sportier than the rest of them. I really love these super slim front lights and the illuminated Fisker badge that sadly we aren't going to get in the UK because of our annoying rules and regulations, but it does look great in the markets that get it. And you can't deny how well it sits on the massive 22-inch wheels. Designers do really love their big wheels, don't they? But if you want to get the most out of the range, then you are going to have to opt for 20s, which still look cool. So in terms of size, it's roughly the same size as a Skoda Enyaq, and I guess it's a direct rival for cars like the Tesla Model Y, Audi Q4 e-tron, BMW iX1, Volvo EX30. One thing has just struck me actually, seeing it today, and it's that I really wish the Range Rover Evoque would become a car like this. So think of the Ocean as the Evoque's way cooler, way more relevant Californian cousin.
Reinforcing that California vibe are all the oceany themed touches that you find dotted around the car. There's Indy, a surfer girl who you can have a lot of fun spotting. There are waves on the pedals and even fish scales in the lights. It's all lovely detail. But all of this we know already, and as lovely as a few Easter eggs are, what's really more important is how it drives.
So I'll have a proper poke around the interior in a little while. I'm keen to get off driving now. But a few things to mention first of all. All you do is literally get in and off you go. You've got your steering controls here on the stalk, so you don't need to faff around with turning the car on. I do like the shape of the steering wheel actually. It feels nice and solid, and I like the flat bottom. Like a Tesla, everything is controlled from here. So if you want to adjust the steering wheel, it's there. There's a little scroll here. You can move it up and down to get the right position. All that's good. Oh, and incidentally, this screen rotates into Hollywood mode. And if when you're rotating it, the steering wheel is in the wrong position, it automatically adjusts, which is quite cool. One thing that irritates me slightly is that there is no CarPlay to sync to. But given that this is such a software-driven car and that over-the-air updates are a really key part of it, wouldn't surprise me if that comes later. And in fact, an Alexa voice control is going to be added to the whole software package as well. So this is the Extreme model. It has a 105 kilowatt hour battery along with two motors which give 534 brake horsepower. The official range is up to 440 miles, and that'll be on those standard 20 wheels, not the nice 22s. But that makes it the longest range of any SUV currently on sale in Europe. So you get three different driving modes: Earth, which is the standard and is maximum range; Fun, which balances performance and range; and Hyper, which gives you just about everything all of the time. And Hyper is the only mode in which you can use a nice little trick called Boost. You're going to like Boost, trust me on this. Boost is fun. Boost basically lets you get from a standing start to 62 miles per hour in just under 4 seconds. That's a bit insane, isn't it? So should we do it? Okay, let's do it. So you have to be in Hyper. There we go. I'm in Hyper, and then Boost is just down here. And turn it into Boost. Are you ready for this? You ready for this? You ready for this? That is nuts! Oh my lord! Manus, are you alright? He's nodding his head. Whoa, that is really quick. Oh, okay, back to earth. You are limited actually to how many times you can use the boost function. There are now 491 remaining. 500 in total you get over the lifetime of the car. Fisker reckons that it's a party trick that owners might tire of. Not so sure I'm going to tire of it. Not so sure it's going to have 491 remaining by the time I get back either.
Now, if all of that sounds slightly like overkill for your commuting needs, then there's also the Ultra model, which has slightly less power from the same battery. And then there's the far more sensible Sport, that comes with a single front motor and a claim range of 275 miles. It has a smaller LFP battery that packs 275 brake horsepower, along with a 7-second 0 to 62 time, which is still no slouch, is it? Charging on all models is a maximum of 22 kilowatt AC, which we like, and 250 kilowatt DC, which we also like, meaning it's the same as any Tesla.
So let's get back to driving, shall we? Proper driving. The modes don't change anything with the suspension damping or the steering. It's more to do with how quickly you get the power, as we've just seen, and also the levels of brake regeneration. So the default is Earth mode, which helps you get the maximum out the range, but I've got it in Fun to get that mid-range balance. So it actually has a really nice power delivery, even when you're not being ridiculous. You know, it's not too quick off the mark like some electric cars, doesn't feel too urgent. It does ramp up quickly though, and it certainly doesn't seem to run out of oomph at all. The steering for me is a little bit light. I prefer a bit more weight in it, but I guess this is a car that's mainly going to be driven around town, so the setup probably suits that quite well. Seats are comfy, perhaps a bit too squishy for some, but I quite like them. So you've got the 3 levels of brake regeneration. I've got it in maximum because I really like that one pedal driving experience, and I'm happy to say it does give that. You can bring it to a really nice halt just by lifting off the accelerator. What you can't do is bring it to a complete standstill. You've got to use the physical brake controls to do that as well. And on the subject of those controls, it's quite interesting how they've set them up. So if I just touch on it lightly there, you're using regeneration initially, so it's quite gentle. You have to give it quite a firm press in order for those physical brakes to kick in. So that might take a bit of getting used to if regeneration is something you're not familiar with. Other than that, I think the ride is nice. It's got a really nice kind of wafty feel. You know, it's soaking up the lumps and bumps on the road quite well, although of course I'm in California, so the roads are generally a lot better here than they are in the UK. I don't think the ride is as harsh, say, as the dual motor Volvo EX30. It's a bit more cosseting than that. Now, one of the big stories with the Ocean is, of course, its range. It's pretty impressive. It's really hard to assess a car's range when you're just in it for a couple of hours like I am today. But looking at the display in front of me, it says I've got just under 270 miles of range left and 75% of the battery capacity. In my slightly jet-lagged brain, I'm working out that that's around 360 miles of range on a full charge, which is pretty impressive given that this car is riding on those massive 22-inch wheels, and all the official figures were worked out with 20-inch wheels. Yeah, I think it's going to bode well for when we do have the car for longer in the UK. Now, of course, the Ocean is about far more than just how it goes on the road, so let's have a poke about in here. First impressions are that the interior is lovely, just as good as when I first saw it. Having a poke around, the build quality feels pretty good. I think there are some lovely materials and details in here, and of course there's so many recycled materials like recycled plastics that have gone into the interior, and they do feel really nice to touch, like this fabric here. Some of them, however, are not so nice. Some of the plastics sort of down here feel a bit cost conscious, along with the door handles and a bit of the trim. But overall, this is a really nice place to be. It's got a very clean, fresh feel to it. I really like the hidden vents for the climate control, and you operate them from the screen here. So you've got little air vents that you can move around, so you can play around with the flow of the air. Another thing that I like is that although, of course, everything is really in the touch screen, you have got some physical buttons just here across the bottom for the climate control and the functions that you use a lot, just like volume as well, which I think is really handy. So the 17.3-inch screen, as I said, controls everything, and it has a party trick. So if you stick it into park mode and then you press that central button, it rotates, which I guess is great for watching movies, that kind of stuff. I think the kids will like it. Look, it's a bit of a gimmick, but I do think it's quite cute. Let's turn that back. And you've also got a secondary screen just here in front of you that gives all the functions that you need, you know, speed, navigation, directions when you're on the move, which again is just in the driver's eye line. I really like that. So let's talk about storage, and the big thing here is there is no glove box. Ta-da! Fisker again did research, and apparently we don't use glove boxes. And I got thinking, and I thought, well, actually, I can't remember the last time I used one. I just chuck stuff around the car. As long as it's got a couple of decent-sized cup holders, which it has, I'm normally all right. What do you reckon? Would you miss a glove box? Let us know in the comments below. So in terms of storage, you've got dual wireless charging pads, 2 cup holders, decent-sized door bins, and then you've got this, which slides out, which is apparently called a taco tray. Not sure how that translates to the UK. I'm thinking we might need to rechristen it pasty platform. Any other suggestions? Let us know in the comments below. Along with that, there's another hidden storage area just underneath the seat. And here in the central armrest, you have another kind of little airline tray table thing. All you need to do now is stick that back into Hollywood mode, find a burger place. You can have your own drive-in movie. How cool is that? And whilst you're having your burger and watching your movie, your car could be charging without even being plugged in, thanks to solar panels up in the roof, which can add up to 150 miles of driving range over the year. Not so useful in the UK, where, as I've already said, it seems to rain a lot at the moment. Very handy if you live in sunny Spain or California. And our whistle-stop tour brings us into the back, where there's loads of room. So I've set the front seat for somebody who is well over 6 foot. I'm 5'4", and as you can see, there is still plenty of leg room. There's definitely a lot more space back here than you'll find in the Volvo EX30, for example. One thing I really love is how you've got extra leg room under the seats, which we've seen in other cars, but I don't think I've seen this before. Under the centre console, you've got some extra space carved out, so whoever is in this middle seat doesn't feel cheated in terms of legroom. I think that's a really smart feature. One thing though, I don't think the doors open that wide. That's quite a narrow opening. It could make it a bit awkward getting kids in and out of child seats in the back. And when you're not using the third seat, there is an armrest that pops down. You have an individual climate control panel here for the rear seats. And of course, a couple of cup holders. And there are the dog windows in the back. We love a car that looks after animals. They currently only operate in California mode, but Fisker do say there may be a software update coming soon that will change that. So the boot space is actually pretty good. It's 476, I think, litres. And there's a nice wide opening and a low load lip, which I like. And you get a little hidden compartment under there to chuck all your storage cables in. And you are going to need that because Fisker, again, did their research and discovered that people apparently don't use frunks. It's quite a nice gadget, but they don't actually make much use of them, so they've done away with a frunk. Now that helps to keep the costs down, but it's also one less part to manufacture. And of course, the less parts that you're making in a car, the more sustainable the car is. And the boot also has a party trick. We close it for a second. The rear pane here just drops down independently, so you don't have to go to all the faff of opening it. If you want, you can just chuck stuff in the back, which is very handy.
You know what? I'm very nearly as impressed as I was when I first saw the Ocean. Other than a few of the plastics feeling a bit below par, it really has lived up to my expectations. But the most important thing is the price, right? So, that sport model is £36,900 in the UK. The Ultra, well, that will set you back £50,990, and the Extreme, just under £58,000. You'll get £100 change. But don't forget that those two are the fast ones and they have more range, and I do think pricing is competitive for what you get.
Well, I spent about 2 hours in the Ocean here in California, and that was enough time to really make me like the Ocean. Yeah, it's got a few flaws, but overall, I find it really hard to get my head around the fact that 2 years ago when I first saw this, Fisker wasn't even a company. You know, they had a standard and auto show and they had a couple of prototypes. And here we are today driving around in California with it in California mode. I think it is a brilliant package and love the sustainability story that it comes with. And it just generally makes me happy because the more great electric cars there are on sale, the better in my book.
Don't forget that no matter how brilliant the Ocean is, there are loads of other exceptional electric cars out there. And if you want to know all about them, then make sure you subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And of course, switch those notifications on.